and welcome to Founder Friday, where we sit down with the founders who are currently taking part in the RevTech Labs, Fintech, and Insurtech Accelerator program. My name is Ashley Everett, and joining me today is Jeremi Karnell from Truelytics. Thank you so much for joining me, Jeremi.
Well, thank you for having me here.
Absolutely. So just to start off with, a low softball, can you tell me a little bit about Truelytics and what it is you're currently working on?
Yeah, so we are pioneering what we call a transition management platform. And we have a mission to really evolve and transform the way the financial services industry discovers opportunities. And so transitions, as we define it, is anything that involves recruiting, practice management, succession planning. These are all very important aspects of a life cycle of an independent advisor or insurance agent or tax professional. And because of the lifestyle nature of their businesses, of those independent businesses, a lot of them don't have, succession plans or continuity plans in place. A lot of them are moving into independent from wirehouses because of economic reasons. And a lot of them are looking to retire. The average age is getting up there close to 60, and 38% are going to retire in the next 10 years. And so all of that points to transition demand being high. But because of the legacy nature of the industry, there's an overdependence on professional services. So valuation consultants, M&A consultants, business brokers, recruiters, and the like. And so we have introduced a B2B SaaS platform that is intently mapped against that life cycle of an independent advisor and agent, and allows them to be able to assess the health and wellness of their book of business, be able to set up a continuity locker for an unplanned succession event, and to be able to algorithmically matchmake with other like-minded advisors or agents that are looking to grow strategically or exit the business.
Wow. Sounds interesting. Can you tell me when you started this and kind of where this idea even came from?
Yeah, so this all came about in 2016. My co-founder was talking with an investment banking firm, and in those conversations, and my co-founder, Terry Mullen, he actually comes from the wealth and advisory space, from the wholesaling side. So he's intimately familiar with the transition dynamics that exist in the space. And so he, at one point, was talking with an investment banking firm that had built sort of the initial core of the IP. It was really initially built for RIAs, and they weren't doing anything with it because it was they put a couple $1 million into a SaaS product, and it sort of conflicted with their professional services business model. So it was shelved. And so Terry was introduced to me through a mutual friend, and we pulled together a group of people to raise some initial pre-seed money to acquire that core IP, and then built Truelytics on top of that.
Wow. So let's back up even further than that.
Okay.
So you got introduced to Terry.
Yes.
But what is it about your background that someone took Terry's ideas and his background and said, you have to meet Jeremi?
Yeah, so I am a lifelong entrepreneur. Really, my startup thesis has always been focused around digital transformation. So this is my third at bat. My first startup was a digital product and marketing company out of Boston. We grew that to about $20 million in net revenue with about 130 people globally. Exited from that in 2012. Monetized some intellectual property out of Harvard and sold that to a company here in Austin in 2014. And that was, again, a data and analytics product really focused on graph and social network targeting. And so when I was introduced to this concept initially, I actually didn't know whether or not I was going to pursue it, because it was in the wealth management space, something that I was not necessarily familiar with. But when I looked into it further, and I looked at the fact that out of all of the niches that exist in every industry, most of them have been impacted by some sort of digital transformation in some way, shape, or form. And that was not the case with transitions, especially at the end of 2016, beginning of 2017. It was still almost completely dominated by professional services. And so that's what I'm driven by. I'm a startup guy. I love building things. I love creating things. And I found a unicorn in the sense that here is a niche in a very specific industry that had yet to be touched by any aspect of digital transformation. So I jumped in.
Wow. Well, that's a really good segue into my next question. Who are some of your competitors? Are there competitors
Yes.
out there? And if so, how are you different?
Yeah, so the traditional competitors, which I would put, the likes of FP Transitions, SRG, et cetera. So the M&A consultants, the valuation consultants, we're different than them. One, because we have a end-to-end SaaS platform that operates both at the enterprise level. So we actually, our initial go-to-market was distributing the software to independent broker dealers, custodians, asset managers, OSJs, as well as then providing an interface and a really solid exchange in value for the actual independent advisor or agent themselves. A lot of the traditional professional services firms, their business models go direct to advisor, and they don't necessarily care if that advisor or agent moves from one competitor to another from an enterprise standpoint. And so that was our end run around that. And so we came in at the enterprise level, one, because they are, they're working with networks of thousands of independent advisory reps. They're willing to sign 6-figure deals. They sign 3-year contract terms. So as a startup, that made a lot of sense. There is I would say, a more direct competitor to us, and that's a really great company out of Toronto called Find Bob. And they got their start in focused on the insurance market in Canada. We got our start focused on the wealth and advisory segment in the United States. And now we're sort of crossing into each other's territory. They got started first with a matchmaking solution. We got started first with a practice management solution. We rolled out our matchmaking solution this past December. And so there's some parity between what we do. There's still, I think there's I think they're still pretty much focused on insurance, although in both the United States and Canada now. And as at the start of this year, we just widened our aperture of our total addressable market to go from wealth and advisory to now include insurance and tax. So
you answered my next question. So let's go into the question after that then, since you answered how you want to grow outside of wealth management. What traction have you seen since that you made that initial launch back in 2016?
So it was 2016 was when we raised the pre-seed round and acquired the IP. We officially launched on January 1st, 2017. And we originally was going direct to RIAs and independent advisory reps, and realized that that was going to be a very long haul for us. And so that's when we decided to take a step back and introduce an enterprise level product. So we sort of pulled ourselves out of the market in the middle of 2017, rebuilt the entire product from the ground up, relaunched it in the middle of 2018. And from the end of June of 2018 through the end of June of 2021, we've seen 145% year-over-year growth. And so we have just the who's who at the enterprise level as far as names are concerned. LPL, Cetera, Advisor Group, Capital Group, Brinker, likes of them. We have 15,580 users on our platform, and 80% of them, maybe 85% of them, are the independent advisory reps that are tied to the 50 enterprise customers that we currently have. And then the balance of those users are direct subscribers that are unaffiliated with any of the enterprises that we currently work with. So they're either RIAs or, again, IARs that are not part of the existing subscriber base. So,
wow, that's really impressive, especially because you saw so much growth over a very, we'll go with unique time in business. So do you feel that there was anything that came out of COVID that was a really significant roadblock, hurdle, or even some companies are saying that it presented a unique advantage for them. Can you talk a little bit about that experience and growing in the times of COVID?
Yeah. So we had like just amazing growth when we launched the enterprise solution. We went from like having, I don't know, maybe $15,000 monthly recurring revenue to something like $100,000 monthly recurring revenue in just like over a year and a half type of thing. And that was really driven by my co-founder's Rolodex and his network of relationships within the wealth advisory space. So we can get in the door of whoever we wanted to. And that really helped us, really confirm product market fit. What COVID did was highlight for us the need for Truelytics to go beyond founder-led sales. We had product market fit, but we began, as a lot of companies did, flatten out from a growth perspective, just because, that's what happens on a global economic shutdown. And so it gave us pause to be like, okay, well, we can use this opportunity to formalize revenue operations and come up with a system that's repeatable and that is efficient in driving growth for us. And so that's what we did. I was lucky enough to pull in who normally is my lifelong business partner, my identical twin brother, Ian. This is the first project that I've worked on that did not include him at the start. He was actually taking a mobile app company public on NASDAQ at the time that we started this. And so he wasn't available until, the end of 2020. And he's my rainmaker. He is like the chief revenue officer. And so I was able to bring him in. We spent Q4 beginning to look at the pipeline and just apply some best practices and releasing sort of the pent up demand that was in the pipeline. And then that took us through the end of Q1. And then in Q2, we really focused on building out a lot of salesprocess.io playbooks related to the top of the funnel. And it has had a dramatic impact on our business. Like we have, I'll put it this way. In Q1 of this year, I think, our sales booked 20 leads or opportunities, deals, I should say, that dropped to like 17 in Q2. We're not even done with Q3 yet, and we've got close to 90. And that the revenues the bookings are following suit. So that's what 2020 forced us to grow in that way. And that was really, in my experience in startups, that's always a critical growth stage, is being able to transition from founder-led growth to formal revenue operations.
Yeah. Wow. And it sounds like there's some pretty incredible family genes there.
He's the better looking one.
Well, I mean, you're identical. So it sounds like there's great genes all around.
All right.
So there's obviously a lot happening at Truelytics.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of action. You're making a lot of growth and progress. So then what drew your company to a program like RevTech Labs, and what is it that you're hoping to get out of it?
Yeah. And so this is the second accelerator that we've been accepted into. Both have been in 2021. And I actually, both of them, I approached with a lot of skepticism, not about the programs, but about whether or not we were too late stage for it. Yep. And the only reason why we took the time to do it, as opposed to being cynical, being like, we're probably not going to get selected because we're approaching our 5th year in business. We've got great product market traction. I've always been under the misunderstanding that accelerators were really more geared towards pre-seed startups, and they're not. And I've learned that lesson this year. The reason why we did it was because the majority of our growth up until the beginning of 2021 was within wealth advisory. And we were intent moving into 2021, now that we had formalized revenue operations, to expand our addressable market to include insurance and tax. And so that involved us having to make some updates to our platform. That involved us really beginning to interview subject matter experts at insurance companies, being able to network within those industries and be able to determine that the success that we have in wealth and advisory, the solution that we brought to bear there could translate easily into insurance and tax. And so in many ways, it was sort of us revisiting almost. It wasn't us going back through pre-seed mode. We obviously have a lot of traction, learning, a great framework and great platform to build on, but it made sense for us to leverage accelerators to really help us make those introductions, and then that sort of sat side by side with the interest that we have in raising a sort of pre-series A, post-seed round, however you want to classify it. And so there's a growth capital exercise that we're going through right now as well. So new market, obviously looking to drive new commercial relationships in those new markets, as well as raise some capital.
Wow. So just to wrap things up, I know you have a lot going on in 2021, participating in RevTech Labs, and I am always seeing you at other large insurance conferences. Can you tell me what's on the agenda for Truelytics for the remainder of the year? What are you guys hoping to do and achieve?
So for the remainder of the year, I would say we are at it like almost all hands on deck focus on revenue operations. And the reason being is that we are one enterprise deal away from being cash flow positive and break even cash flow positive. And so given that we've had so much success getting there, that we've really closed the delta on our net burn, I think, and we left 2020 with just great traction. Like normally we never have, in the history of our company, we never really saw Q4 as a time to grow up until I brought Ian in and he began to formalize the process around revenue operations. And all of a sudden we had the best quarter in the history of our company. And so here we are approaching a follow-on quarter to that. And I'm like, well, I want to see a repeat of that, especially since if we have a repeat of that, even if we do half of that, we're going to be break even and very sustainable as a company without any growth capital. And so that is sort of my objective right now. Until we close the growth capital round, we're going to be 110% focused on doing the best practices and running a bootstrapped startup. And in my opinion, that is getting to cash flow positive as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
So.
I'm going to throw a curveball. I know I said that was my last question. It's not. So what's the hopes for 2022 then? Let's look even further ahead.
Hope for 2022. So I would love to see us double our revenue. We're going to probably end the year with 1.5 million in ARR. I would love to see us get to 3 million in ARR. I foresee us really beginning to take seriously opportunities to introduce some data products, which we have yet to do. And we've got the largest database of its kind. We've got, like I said before, 15,500 direct users on our platform. We've already benchmarked for effectively Zillowfying the wealth management space and being able to identify all of the different independent players, actually estimate their values, even without anything other but one or two data points about the company. We can provide a lot of really accurate data about them. And so understanding how that can be applied to the business, to the industry in a more meaningful way, from a benchmarking standpoint, from a data enrichment standpoint. So, and currently data is not part of our revenue stream. It's not part of our business model. And it's a really huge opportunity for us. One that we were going to be deliberate about. We're going to choose the time and place of introducing that to the market. And it has to do obviously with really the size of the database that we have. And so I think 2022 is going to potentially be a year of data. I think 2022 is going to be the year of more automation on our end. So I would say data collection and enrichment as far as how we collect the information we need in our platforms. And talking to a number of different players right now to, take what normally can be a 15 or 20-minute process and make that a 2-minute process, because we already have the data we need, versus requiring, the steps that we need to take now and getting data from an independent broker dealer, from the SEC, from an RIA directly. There's multiple sources, and those are going to continue. But I think, really continuing to make that process easier and more automated is then going to obviously play into the other part of that, which is having a bigger data set of really clean, dependable data that, people are going to find valuable. So,
well, I am excited to watch all of that happen for you and Truelytics.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I am thankful for being part of RevTech Labs Fintech Accelerator. This has been an amazing experience to date. Really great cohort, really great leadership at RevTech. So thank you.
Well, we are so happy to have you. And I tell Jasmine, our program manager, all the time that you have to be the happiest founder I've ever met in my life. So we love having you.
Awesome. Well, I love being here. So thank you so much.
Of course. And thank you for joining today and sharing your story.
You got it. Appreciate it.
And for everyone else, I will put all of Truelytics information where you can learn more, find out more in the show notes. And then until then, stay safe and stay healthy, everyone.